Welcome to Dave Knows Ball on this February 3rd, 2025 episode, folks. Basketball heavy show. It is a basketball heavy show. We're obviously going to hit a headliner in football. Obviously going to do that. I'm fired up for you guys to join us tonight. Got a big episode for you. Basketball heavy. Going to warn you on the intro there. But dang, I mean, football not really going up right now. I mean, think about it. Dead period just happened. It's a dead period through March 3rd, I do believe. And I think LSU opens up spring ball off the top of my head, March 8th, talking to somebody on their staff today. March 8th. So, I mean, before we know it here, I mean, just over a month, 5 days, LSU will be opening up 2025 spring ball. So that'll be fun from that perspective there. So not a lot going on in football. Again, football is covered year-round sport here, especially on the SECU Unfiltered channel. But still, today we'll hit on the Ryan Grubb issue and go into Alabama. I should say issue. I mean, I think it's one of the biggest pulls Kalen DeBoer's had since he's been at Alabama. It's a big hire. We'll talk about it in just a minute. But Luke Taylor from the Full Court Network will come on and also join us to talk a little basketball. As he does, it feels like every Monday night. It kind of feels like, doesn't it? Feels like every Monday night Luke's with us, and I enjoy it. But again, Luke Taylor from the Full Court Network does a phenomenal job covering the sport. Speaking of the sport, wild weekend. We'll briefly, again, we always go back and briefly cover what happened on Saturday. Because, again, if you really want the in-depth reaction, raw reaction to it, go check out Saturday night's reaction that I did when myself and Chris Phillips got back from Tuscaloosa, Coleman Coliseum, Alabama. Georgia is where the tour took us to on Saturday. But wild weekend, Cal gets revenge. Auburn holds strong in Oxford. Tennessee, down to 7 scholarship players, just dismantles Florida at home and kind of a back against their wall, they had to have it type game. Couldn't go 0-2, 2 games at home this past week. They already dropped the early one in Kentucky. But Rick Barnes and culture win. That term's thrown around a lot, folks. But there's something to that there. Again, I know Tennessee fans get frustrated with Rick Barnes, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. But again, top 4 finishes in Rick Barnes. It's death taxes, LSU turning the basketball over, and Rick Barnes finishing the top 4 in the SEC every year, it feels like. Oh, look at JBR Bracketology, his updated seed list as well. I haven't even dug deep in it. Again, busy day today, so I put that one on here. I'm like, hey, JBR joins us a lot. Want to bring up his updated seed list. We'll talk about that as we're seeing it. My power rankings, we have already released that on social media. People think I'm an idiot, as always. I've released that video as well. Highly encourage you to go check that out at the SEC Unfiltered channel. Again, like, subscribe, hit that notification. For all you guys listening, I know a lot of you aren't already subscribed, but let's get that up. It's the road to 20,000. There's no reason the SEC Unfiltered channel should not be at 20,000 subscribers when we wake up, probably at the beginning of March, right? When we're getting into March Madness, conference tournament, NCAA tournament time. So we'll announce that. We'll probably be out in Vegas at some point doing that show from the NCAA tournament. First weekend. Always been a dream of mine. Almost had it for a bachelor party, for my own bachelor party, but we changed it. Story for another time. We'll talk my power rankings. Then obviously, let's get right to it. Ryan Grubb to Alabama, coming over from the Seahawks with Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald, who was hired from Baltimore? Yeah, came over from Baltimore. Head coach of the for the Seahawks. Hired Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb was at Alabama for about a month and a half last year. Came with Kalen DeBoer from Washington. But then when the Seahawks, and it kind of felt that way. It was kind of always kind of the rumor, the feel that, hey, maybe Ryan Grubb probably will go back to Seattle. Again, already has a house there, doesn't have to move. NFL job. Let's see if the system works out in the NFL. But his lone season in the NFL, kind of a mixed bag a little bit. Seattle finished 8th in passing yards, 14th in total offense, 21st in scoring offense, 28th in rushing offense. Geno Smith liked him. I mean, quote here, excellent coordinator. I mean, I did see that after every – Geno Smith really, I think, learned a lot from Ryan Grubb. And again, I think Mike McDonald liked him too. I mean, I really did. I mean, he just opted to go in a different direction. Again, I think he improved Geno Smith. I mean, Seattle ranked 8th in passing yards, 14th in total offense, 21st in scoring offense, and 28th in rushing. Like I mentioned, Geno Smith always praised him. I think he just kind of fits to the college mold a little bit. And my main point when I'm talking about here in this hire, I want to bring it up. I think he brings in a little bit of who's the Herb Brock Heward talked about it. Does a good show down in Seattle. I think one of the highest grossing or highest viewed rated sports shows out there. I wish I knew the name. Sorry, I don't. But I heard him talking. I want to give him proper credit for this. But he made a good point from people I've heard in the industry. Ryan, Kalen DeBoer is who he is. People always ask me when I worked in college football industry, what was it like working with Gus Malzahn, Les Miles, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Mark Richt, Kevin Sumlin? It's like these guys are so covered year round that like who you think they are is who they are. Les Miles, goofy, quirky. Gus Malzahn, very hesitant, very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Always nervous, uptight, thinking somebody's trying to steal his stuff. I mean, there was a police escort around the facility, 24/7 police surveillance, I think, for the Iron Bowl when it was in Auburn every year. Who else? Mark Richt, laid back, kind of who you think he is. Kirby Smart, very up-tempo. Let's go 4th and goal every day. Kevin Sumlin, again, laid back. I got there the last year of his tenure at A&M. So, again, there's my point being they're all so covered that they are who they kind of portray in the media, who they think that's kind of their personality too. So, my point being, Kalen DeBoer, very laid back. That's who he is. I think Ryan Grubb coming over is kind of the good cop, bad cop. And that's Brock Heward's term. Familiar with both the guys, covered him at Washington, his alma mater. His nephew, Sam Heward, played for him as well. I think he hit a hammer on the head with that. I think it's going to be, hey, on offense. And again, they had Nick Sheridan last year, a bit of a younger cat. Again, I say younger. He's in his 30s, but still, what wasn't the ideal OC candidate initially. They just had to put him kind of in it and Jamarcus Shepard to kind of split those roles because Ryan Grubb left. Remember, Ryan Grubb left. So they had to kind of, hey, let's don't go get someone outside our tree. They're bringing it in. I like this hire. I think it's going to kind of light a fire under the offense, probably light some fire under some people's asses, for lack of a better term. I mean, that's what it's going to be. I mean, he's going to raise the level of that expectation. Kalen DeBoer is going to kind of be that calm demeanor. I think Ryan Grubb's going to bring that fire to him. He's going to up level that intensity that I think they needed last year a little bit. Him and those Kane Womack wars will be fun to watch. Following Alabama in 2025. I'll be interested to see how committed is Alabama to the run game next year. Again, they got Jam Miller back. They did lose Justice Haynes, who transferred to Michigan. But I'll be committed again. They had Dylan Johnson in 2023 when they went to the national championship game, beat Texas in the Sugar Bowl. Remember, Michael Penix finished second in the Heisman. Year before Kalen DeBoer came to Tuscaloosa, they really only rode one running back. Is that kind of the slate next year? That wouldn't be my suggestion. Just from working in the league, you need a group of running backs. We'll be interested. That would be kind of my question: is how committed is Ryan Grubb to the running game? That's got to improve. I think a little bit. Maybe it will. But I'll be interested to see how exciting this spring will be. Is it Ty Simpson's guaranteed job right now? I don't think so, especially with a new OC coming in. I think Ryan Grubb's going to come in and try to set a mentality, light some fire under you know what, and say, hey, like, the attention to detail matters. These little mistakes, the check with Mees from the sideline, we have to get that right, guys. And I think Kalen DeBoer, he's not really comfortable in that. And again, you'd rather a guy be who he is, be comfortable in his own skin a little bit. Be comfortable in his own skin is how I always like to say it. Because if he tries to be something he's not, dude, players aren't dumb. These 18 to 22-year-old players are not dumb. They see right through that, guys. I saw it every day. Coaches try to be something they're not. Doesn't resonate. Be who you are. Even if they don't like what you're saying, they'll at least respect what you're saying. And later down the line, they'll respect and they'll thank you. So I think it's the best move Kalen DeBoer's done. I think it's the best move he's made since he's been at Alabama. This is a big-time hire now, guys. It may slip under the radar because it's kind of quiet for college football. And I know the college football junkies make there's no offseason. I agree, but most fans are casual fans. Let's call a spade a spade. So there is an offseason. There are seasonal sports fans. I think this is a big, massive hire. Again, feels like he's tried to get to Tuscaloosa the last 3 seasons. Again, Nick Saban tried to hire him the year he hired Tommy Reese, obviously, when Kalen DeBoer came last year, and then he went to Seattle. This year, he's finally staying longer than a month, it looks like. So Ryan Grubb to Alabama, phenomenal hire, big pickup. Excited to see what the Tide offense looks like heading into spring ball. Coming up, guys. Let's get a little bit of basketball weekend recap quickly. Again, we don't have to be long-winded. If you want to see the real reaction, you can go to Saturday's reaction. But Auburn, let's start off. Number 1 team in the country getting the 92-82 win over Ole Miss. Just quickly, Ole Miss could never get over that 5 to 2-point range in this game. Always felt like Ole Miss was fighting an uphill battle, and when they would get there, you thought the crowd maybe would will them a little bit over the edge. Just Auburn has – It's that DNA this year. I mean, someone's always getting the job done. Hey, they cut it to 5. Auburn's getting a possession late in the shot. They kick it out to Miles Kelly. He hit a 3, quiet it, go back up 8. It's a game of runs, folks. And anyone who watches college basketball will tell you. But those are kind of, again, you exert so much energy coming back in these runs. So for you to finally go get over that hill to stay with a team like Auburn and finish the job takes a whole nother kind of energy. Just unfortunately, Ole Miss didn't have that. I mean, maybe they can go play a little bit better of a game when they go to Auburn. They still do. But again, I didn't think Ole Miss was bad, honestly. Just Auburn's that good, folks. I mean, Auburn's just that good across the board. Janai Baroom doing Janai Baroom things. 20 points. Again, all 5 Auburn starters in double figures here. I mean, who do you want? Just a deep bench to Hyde Pettiford, Miles Kelly, Denver Jones. A who's who of just basketball players right now at Auburn. Again, I don't even think they're the most talented team in the league. I think that's Alabama, but Auburn is the highest floor because everyone they play their role to an elite level. But Auburn gets the big win over Ole Miss. Alabama, the number 4 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. This is where we were. Got the 90-69 win over Georgia. Aiden Sherrill, kind of the guy who stood out for the Tide today. Kind of stepped up out of nowhere, coming off the bench, the true freshman. 12 points, 3 for 5 from the field, 2 or 3 from behind the arc. Bama did have 19 turnovers. You probably don't see this much, guys. Let's be honest. Sorry, 20 turnovers. 20 turnovers for Bama. Georgia had 19 more shots, and Alabama still won by 21. That probably never happens. Let's be honest. 19 more shots, and you still lose by 21? That's just kind of the funk this Georgia offense is right now. That's just kind of the funk they are in right now. But for Alabama, just got to limit the turnovers. It's coming from 5th year, guys. But they got a midweek bye this week. Mark Sears, again, 20 points. For Georgia, they ended up shooting 17% from the 3. Around halftime, it was 7%, if I remember right. 47% of the field, just struggling offensively right now. Asa Newell getting his typical about 14 to 16 points. But again, there's really nothing after that. But Alabama getting the 90-69 win. Georgia just struggled away from Athens this year. But Georgia now 15-7, 3-6. Bama 19-3, 8-1. Next score right here, Florida, Tennessee getting the 64-44 win over the Gators. Just a molly-whopping, as myself and Chris Phillips were calling it down there. I mean, again, Zakai Ziegler was out. Igor Milicic was out. He was under the weather. 19 points for Chaz Lanier. Jordan Gainey, 16 points. I would have told you I'd been shocked if Tennessee won the game, much less blew them out. So I was shocked. I'll eat some crow in this. I was shocked. But again, I think this was a culture DNA type win for Rick Barnes. 64-44 win. Woo! I mean, 40% from the field, 27. Again, what a great offensive production from Tennessee. I was more how bad this Florida team played offensively. One guy in double figures, Walter Clayton, and he kind of rolled his ankle in this game too. Nothing from Will Richard, 2 points. Elijah Martin, 8 points combined between Elijah Martin and Will Richard. That's not going to get it done, folks. 24% from the field, 14% from beyond the arc. That's probably as bad of an offensive performance I can remember from Florida basketball. Maybe Lon Kruger was there. This is pre-Billy Donovan, folks. I know Florida fans like to beat up on Mike White, but we never saw this offensive performance from Mike White either. Again, I think this was just kind of a rare off one game for Florida. Again, I don't think Tennessee played that great offensively. 64 points, folks. If you told them they scored 64 points, I think everybody would have bet Florida blew them out. When you factor in they were missing Zakai Ziegler and Igor Milicic, I think it was just a one-off performance from Florida. If I'm a Florida fan and Todd Golden, I hope so. That was a bad loss, folks. And I was just saying it, how it's just an Alabama-Auburn race right now because I don't trust Florida overall. We'll get to the power rankings here in a minute. And Tennessee fans didn't like how I still had Florida ranked over them, spoiler alert. But this is a weird performance overall. It really was because, again, like I mentioned, Tennessee was just 40% from the field, 27% from beyond the arc. So it wasn't anything impressive either. Just one of the worst offensive performance I can remember from a Florida basketball team. But, yeah, big win for Tennessee. The big one, Arkansas getting the 89-79 win over Kentucky. Cal and the boys go back into Rupp. It was a Kentucky reunion. Big Z, big game. Adu Thero, big game. DJ Wagner, big game. All Kentucky Wildcats who followed Cal to Fable stepped up. It's about the worst-case scenario for Kentucky. First time all year, even that Ohio State game, as bad as they looked at MSG right before Christmas break, this game looked like a deer in headlights. True deer in headlights. Looked like it was too big for him. Now, does that mean that carries on? No. I just think on Saturday night, specifically, I don't even think anyone who wears the brightest big blue glasses would not disagree. If you go back and watch the game like I did, it's kind of like, yeah, yeah, I mean, it's just like Mark Pope was just hoping for answers and just had nothing. Again, it looked like the moment was too big for this Kentucky team. And again, I'm not going to judge them. It's just one basketball game. But on that night, they did. And again, that's the first time I'd seen that all year. I'll just leave it at it. It's the first time I'd seen it all year. But give Arkansas credit. I mean, I think Saturday night was more about Arkansas making plays off him. I mean, it's the most offensive. It was the best offensive performance they'd had all year. 55% from the field, 52% from beyond the arc. Arkansas does that. They'll win every game left of their schedule. Yeah, even at Auburn, probably they win that, guys. That's how confident I would be. I mean, Kentucky, 48% from the field, 43% from beyond the arc. Not too bad there. Not too bad there. But, I mean, again, Kentucky, you just got to flush this one before you go to Oxford this week. Arkansas, you got a big one at Texas. It's like I mentioned in the Power Rankings video today, folks. I'm not ready to buy big stock on Arkansas yet. I'm not. I got to see it again. This is still only a two-win league team, two-win SEC win team right now. I mean, I got to see it again. Wednesday night at the Moody Center is massive for both these teams. But, again, Arkansas getting the 89-79 win over the Kentucky Wildcats. Chugging along, guys. 76-72 win for Texas A&M. Wasn't pretty, but quickly A&M still the only winless team in the league. Had a chance in the last 4 minutes, but A&M just doing A&M things. I mean, it's not always going to be pretty, but again, it's one of those. I guess Buzz Williams was one of those students who just let him write in the math answer. He didn't have to show his work, because if he showed the work, it would be really ugly. Just give him the final answer. Hey, A plus B equals C. That's all he wants. He don't want to see how he got there, because if we showed how we got there, it'd be really sloppy. The work displayed by the Aggies can be really ugly at times. But I thought offensively they weren't terrible. 44% from the field, 47% from beyond the arc. Wade Taylor kind of stepping up his own. Remember, they were without him for a week and a half. No one really knew how to rank these guys, get a feel with them. Now he's starting to get back on his own. This is an older team. This team's probably one of the more slept-on teams in the country. They're fighting for that 2 to 3 seed right now, going under the radar. We're talking to a little bracketology here in a minute. But again, getting the 76-72 win over South Carolina. Missouri just goes in and absolutely destroys Mississippi State. I mean, besides Tennessee, the biggest winners of the day from that perspective. Caleb Grill, 6th man of the year. Give Missouri credit, man. They went in, had the midweek bye, had a great game plan, went in and hit Mississippi State in the mouth at the hump on Mississippi State's floor. Tough week for Mississippi State. 0-2 at home last week. Can't drop. That could hurt them finishing in the top 4. Again, they weren't really going to compete for the league title. Finishing in the top 4 could really hurt those guys from that perspective. I mean, it really could. Let's call it, because back-to-back home losses midweek, can't have that happen. They kind of let Alabama beat them twice, but it's not taking nothing away from Missouri. Oklahoma getting a 30-point win over Vandy, 97-67 win. Oklahoma overcame a 13-point deficit in this game to come back and win by 30. One of the more bigger flips I can remember. Just an overall phenomenal second half. I mean, Vanderbilt was up 40-36, had a great offensive performance in the second half. Phenomenal defensive performance by the Sooners in the second half, and offensive performance. I mean, scoring over, 61 points almost, just from fire from beyond the field. 63% from the field, 55% from beyond the arc. It's just, I don't know, you're going to go lose some road games. It is what it is. You're going to lose some road games. Mark Bynes and them just got to keep chipping along. They got to get to that 8-win total, I think. 4 more wins. If they can somehow scratch it, I feel really good about them making a conference play. Then Texas making a statement down in Baton Rouge, getting the 89-58 win over LSU. Phenomenal. I mean, LSU, I think LSU, South Carolina, we all feel pretty good about sitting at 15-16 right now, right? I mean, we do. I hope none of these teams quit, but inevitably at some point, teams start to check out. A little human nature comes in. LSU, 45% from the field, 13% from beyond the arc. How many turnovers do we have? We're always say death taxes and LSU turnovers. 15, still not great at home. But Texas, man, they had 4 starters in double figures. Trey Johnson, 18. Kaluma, 10. Caden Shedrick getting better in the front court. I will say that. Since that Auburn game, man, kind of held his own, maybe gave him some confidence going against Janai Broome. I thought he's been playing better. 16 points, 10 boards. It's a double-double right there. You'll take that. But big win for Texas. But like I mentioned, big game coming up at home on Wednesday against Arkansas. Looking at the standings here. Let me pull them up. I'll read them out to you. We got before we look at the power rankings, Auburn sitting at 8-0 in the league, Alabama 8-1, Missouri 6-2, Texas A&M 6-3, Florida 5-3, Tennessee 5-4, Ole Miss also 4-4, Vanderbilt, Kentucky sit at 4-4, Mississippi State and Texas 4-5, Oklahoma 3-5, Georgia 3-6, Arkansas 2-6, LSU 1-7, South Carolina 0-9. Again, you may add up if you just started kind of joining us. Again, Dave Shoemate, SEC Unfiltered, head college basketball analyst from this perspective. Again, we got some midweek. Again, we're about 6 games every midweek, Tuesday and Wednesday, 3 games each day. So you'll notice when I was reading those records that some of those numbers may be a little uneven because we've had some, started about 2 weeks ago. I think Auburn and them kind of let us off from a midweek slate. But let me get into let's go check the seed lines real fast. I want to pull this up for our guy over at JV Bracketology. If you missed it last week, again, I would love you to go check it out, but also he has a more updated one, but I wanted to bring this up for him. He's got Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, 3 out of the top 4 1 seeds coming from the Southeastern Conference. Like I mentioned, Auburn, Alabama, and Tennessee, 3 of the top 4 1 seeds. Sounds about right. I mean, what if I asked you right now? National champion comes between Auburn, Alabama, and Duke, or the field. Who you going with? Who you going with? Yeah, I think it's a fair question. Auburn, Alabama, or Duke, or the field? It's a fair question. Again, let me humbly brag here now. I made a bet going into the season: Ohio State, Georgia, or the field in the college football bet. Georgia, Ohio State to win the national championship or the field. Ohio State saved me. I actually don't hate that bet. To win the whole thing, to go win 6 games in the tournament against I think Bama's got the highest ceiling in the country. For Auburn's got the highest floor. Duke's right there. Got a superstar in Cooper Flag. You got to always have a bucket getter during NCAA tournament time. I don't hate it, but 3 of the top 4 number 1 seeds. A&M sitting on that 2 line. So is Florida. Again, I keep saying A&M, one of the more slept on teams. Again, don't show your work. They just give me A plus B equals C. You don't have to show your work, folks. A&M's that guy who keeps passing that math test, but it's not showing his work. Because the way they show it, again, it's the way Taylor shows, Zurich Phelps show, and then it's just Pharrell Payne, Anderson Garcia, Henry Coleman just collecting it off the board. That's what it is. It ain't always pretty, but they get there. Give them credit. They're both sitting on 2 lines there, Florida and Texas A&M. The 3 seed, we got Kentucky, the last 3 seed, according to him, after the loss to Arkansas. Missouri coming in as a 5 seed. Ole Miss a 6 seed on the 6 line. Again, I think they can move up a little bit. Missouri being 5 is interesting. Kansas lost again. Kansas still a 4 seed, but it doesn't look as good as it once did. Let's see. Let's keep going. Mississippi State sitting at that 8. Does anybody kind of feel like a couple weeks ago, again, like Mississippi State was fighting for a 3 or 4 seed? Now it feels like they're going to get like a 7 to 10 seed. I mean, this is a team that really hadn't played great in their last 7 games. And I'll be honest with you, as the days going on, I kind of wish I put Kentucky just 1 spot ahead of Mississippi State. Really, again, does it really matter? We're splitting hairs here between the 8th and 9th team in the SEC. But still, it's like, I don't know, you go back and watch some of the extended highlights, it's like, man, Mississippi State 0-2 at home last weekend. Again, I mean, it's against 2 of the top 3 teams in the league, Alabama and Missouri, taking nothing away from those 2 teams. But if you're Mississippi State, you can't go 0-2 at home. That just it can't sit well, and I know it doesn't with Chris Jans. Remember, Chris Jans was on the show during the summer, and so was Chris Beard as well. Both Mississippi schools on the line for us there. For, like I said, Mississippi State sitting there at 8. We got Oklahoma sitting there in the 8 spot as well. That's about right now. Maybe rated a little too high, in my opinion. But I think Mississippi State and Oklahoma are going to be those 2 teams kind of fighting at it from that perspective. Texas coming in at a 10 seed. Texas at times screams a Dayton play-in team to me. 11 seed Georgia. I mean, Vanderbilt first, and then Georgia. I mean, Georgia's at, who are you buying a little bit more stock in right now? This would be a good question. Arkansas or Georgia? That'd be a good, fair question. Probably need to put that out there on social media. Are you going to go over? Are you going to go buy some and lose some money off Arkansas? Again, I'm not making an official say on how I feel about Arkansas getting to 7-8 conference wins until I see what they do on Wednesday in Austin. And hey, hashtag bless the mood as our guy, the culture coordinator, or what it Ministry of Culture. Our guy Matthew McConaughey says, but that's a big game for Texas and Arkansas. I know I got a little off topic there, but Georgia. My point being, like, they just like offensive illiterate a little bit now that we see. I mean, I was there live the other day. I mean, they were, again, how Alabama turned the basketball over 20 times, 19 times. Georgia had 20 more shots on goal than Alabama had, and Alabama still won by 21. That shows you how bad Georgia shot in Coleman Coliseum on Saturday afternoon. I mean, that's how they kind of been all year. Getting big week coming up. LSU, Mississippi State at home. I feel like you need to get 2-0 at very least one away. You can't lose to LSU at home. There's not a lot of bad losses in this league. That would be one. But, yeah, Vanderbilt, Georgia, kind of that team sitting there like, I think they're kind of on the wrong side. I know I got JVR right here has got them in, but another bad week or two. They're going to be on the outside looking in. No one really in this line right here. First 4 out, nobody. Next 4 out, Arkansas coming in that 6th spot there. So, I mean, take that as it is. Can Arkansas get to 7, 8 wins? 7, I think, may get them in. It depends, and again, it all depends who these wins are. But just wanted to go over the seed line there by our buddy JB Bracketology coming in right there. He gave his updated seed list as of today. Getting into my power rankings just briefly before we bring on our buddy over Luke Taylor from the Full Court Network to preview this weekend's games quickly. We have the video out. You've seen the graphic. Tell me how dumb I am. You can tell me how smart I am if you're a Missouri fan, by the way. I know my boy Rambo over there likes me moving the Tigers in. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid now. But as you can tell, the South Carolina Gamecocks come in at number 16. No shocker. No shocker. Somebody may put LSU 16, but again, that one win's got to count for something. We got a February's an 8th matchup in Baton Rouge. These two teams play for the cellar dweller matchup here. But South Carolina 10-12, 0-9 in league play, net 92nd. They're at 16. LSU coming in at 15th at 12-9, 1-7, net 74th. 14th, Arkansas, 13-8, 2-6, net 47th. Again, I'm not going to get on board until I see what they do against Texas this week. I think they got to get to that 7-8 win mark. 8, they're in. Let's call it spade 8. 7, because things could get real interesting. They can have a massive week, though. They get Texas on the road in a must-win, I think. And they host Alabama on Saturday night at Bud Walton. Oklahoma at 13, 16-5, 3-5, 38 in net. Again, one of those 4 teams I mentioned, Oklahoma, Texas, Vandy, Georgia. And I think if Arkansas wins on Wednesday in Austin, throw them as the 5th team in that, like, hey, how many teams does the SEC get? These teams can go. The last back half of conference play is going to be big. Throw Georgia in that. We just talked about them. 15-7, 3-6, 34th in the net. They come in at 12th, as you can see. Texas at 11th, but they're playing really good basketball right now. They are. They've been playing really good. They had the 22-point comeback against Texas A&M. I even thought their loss at Ole Miss in the middle of the week. They were up 13 to 15 points in that game midweek and let Ole Miss come back. But again, it's not a bad loss. Went and dominated LSU on the road. Again, not a great LSU team, but you beat anybody one by 30 on the road in this league, you'll take it. So Texas has been playing well. Again, I keep mentioning it. Besides Tennessee, Missouri has top 4 in this league implications. This game, Texas-Arkansas has NCAA tournament implications. Massive game on Wednesday night. But Texas checks in at 10. Vandy, 16-5, 4-4, coming in at 44th in the net, checks in at number 10. Again, I'm not going to – they had one bad loss. Again, the second half just got away from them in Norman. Kentucky, some people hate this, but 15-6, 4-4 in league play, net 19th. Mississippi State coming in at 8th, 16-6, 4-5 in league play, net 31st. Again, you won't hear any arguments if you wanted to put Kentucky at 8. I don't like where Kentucky is from an injury standpoint. Lamont Butler, I didn't like what Mark Pope said the other night. It sounded like it's going to be we'll see what the next few weeks look like. It's going to be an extended period. He's out. When does Kirk Risa come back? He's their ultimate dog. Again, it was the first time all season. They played terrible against Ohio State in that MSG match. They looked like deer in headlights, and so did Mark Pope. Now, does that carry over to their matchup Tuesday night against Ole Miss tomorrow night? No, I don't think it will. And if they lose, it won't be that. It's the first time I saw them blink and flinch. And it looked like the moment was too big for them. Like I mentioned, Mississippi State 8th, 16-6, 4-5, net 31. Ole Miss 16-6, 5-4, net 23. A&M, again, I keep saying the most slept on team in the league, even probably my rankings here. But again, the league's so good. A&M coming in at 6, 17-5, 6-3, net 14. Tennessee, this is where they hated it. The Vol fans got after me today. 5th, 18-4, 5-4 in league play, net 4th. they're mad I got Florida at 4th. And they're like, well, we just beat Florida. I get it. But also 2 weeks ago, Florida just dismantled you too. Again, I don't count just one game in here, guys. This is big picture for me. Like, how do I like this team feeling like big? That's why I got Kentucky at 9th. I don't like the injury setup for them right now. And does that loss kind of shock them mentally? They looked out of it a little bit. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Their game at Ole Miss this week's another one. But I got Florida at 4, as I mentioned, 18-3, 5-3, net 5th. Missouri, biggest movement this week, 18-3, 5-3, net 5th. Now, they moved up in everyone this week. They've been playing really well, have a chance to really establish themselves as a top 4 team in this league. Probably heading into the back half of the league if they can go win tomorrow night at the Tommy Bowl in Knoxville. Number 2, Alabama and Auburn, both here at 1 and 2. No shocker. That hadn't changed for a couple of weeks. Bama 19-3, 8-1, net 6. Everyone's looking ahead to that February 15th Saturday afternoon showdown. But Bama's got a midweek bye. They got to get by Arkansas on Saturday night, and they got to go to Austin next midweek right before that Auburn game. So, again, Texas playing their best ball right now. Arkansas, they kind of turned a corner. They could be a tougher 2-game stretch than we thought for Bama. Auburn 20-1, 8-0, net number 1, unanimous number 1. Whoever poll it has 2 eyes that you could look at and see would probably have Auburn number 1. But just doing big things, flexing their muscles, getting a big boy win in Oxford. Again, I didn't think Ole Miss played that bad, but when Auburn needed to stop, when they needed to get a bucket, when Ole Miss would get it from 2 to 5, Auburn did what big dog. They did what Lions do when Lions have to go do what they have to do, and that's what they did. It's a beast of a team right now. Is it the most talented? No, I think Alabama's the most highest ceiling team in the country. I think Auburn's the highest floor. So we'll go from that perspective, guys. But before we bring in my buddy over, Luke Taylor over from the Full Court Network, let me get in 1 second from us. Let me pull it up. Oh, no, I'll find it here in a minute. Let's bring Luke in. Let's get you on here. Luke, what's going on, brother?
What is going on?
Luke Taylor coming in with us, as you do every Monday, dude. I actually get fired up about it. We just need to officially make this like an official deal.
Yes.
Why would we?
Sign me up. You know what happens, Shu? The week becomes better when I'm with you Monday night.
Dude, that's the best compliment I got all night. And again, guys, Luke Taylor, Full Court Network. Give them the follow at LT and Sammy D1. Luke, talk to me, baby. Where would you change some things up here a little bit in my power rankings this week? I remember we always open up this segment. What would you change a little bit? Anywhere from 16 to 1, give it to me.
I am surprised. Listen, I am a big Dennis Gates fan. He was in Cleveland State. He's a Chicago guy. I love what he's doing, okay? I'm a little bit surprised you put him at 3. You gave him like a bunch of roses on that one.
I think, dude, I'm just buying into them a little bit. I think what they do right now kind of travels in its own weird way.
Yeah.
I think they turn the basketball over. They get points at the free throw line. I think they're totally a tough out at home. I think you would even agree with that. I mean, they're complete. Yeah. Think about this. People aren't talking about it. Bama goes to Missouri that next Wednesday night after they play Auburn on Saturday. And that's back-to-back games for them right now. I don't think we've realized that's coming up on the horizon. I mean, I don't know. Missouri I think Caleb Grill could be the 6th man of the year in this league too.
Absolutely. I mean, didn't he have 20 the game this past game?
Yeah. I mean, overall, let me see his exact stats.
Yeah, 20 points.
Yeah. Looking at it now too.
And that's a good sign if Tamar Bates and Mitchell are kind of struggling a little bit. To have a guy like that can drop 20 in the SEC, that's huge. I mean, that's huge.
6 for 11 from beyond the arc. I mean, it's one of those things too, Luke, where it's like you see defenses. It's like, dude, this guy's already made up in his mind. If he gets the pass, this dude is pulling up. Like, you can't give him any space. I think so. And he doesn't really take people off the dribble. So I don't know, the interesting scouting report from that perspective. But you're right. I mean, they got some older dudes. Mark Mitchell's an underrated guy there. Like you said, Tamar Bates, Tony Perkins, even Josh Gray, who I feel like has been on every team in the SEC. He's been at LSU, South Carolina, now Missouri, and then Caleb Grill, like you said, the total X factor. But I don't know. I mean, here's a good question. Here's a good question for you,
Go ahead.
Luke. Do you think Saturday in Starkville was more Missouri, or do you think Mississippi State let Alabama beat them twice?
Missouri. I mean, Missouri beat them by 27.
Yeah, I agree. That's why you hate to take anything away from Missouri at that point.
No, I mean, if you're winning by over 20 away, I mean, that's legitimate. That's not a team struggling at home. That's just a really good team coming in and continuing it. You know, the other kid I really like is the sophomore, Anthony Robinson. Robinson or Robertson?
Robinson.
Anthony Robinson. He's a ball player. He's only a sophomore.
Yeah, Anthony Robinson. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't great the other night, but overall, you're right. It's like they have everybody. It's a little bit similar to Auburn a little bit, the way they play. Like, they're a deep team. They have some shooters. They have their consistent guy, Mark Mitchell. Again, he's not like Janai Brewer, but they have older guys. I mean, it's amazing the turnaround after going 0-18 in league play. I mean, think about it here, Luke. What Dennis Gates finished third, I think, in the SEC 2 years ago when they had Kobe and them. And then last year they go winless. And then this year, I mean, he's set to finish in the top four, as we would say in this moment.
Nope. And he can go winless next year. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And, you know, it's how you put together a roster. And, you know, Dennis Gates put together a puzzle this offseason. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Some would say he's a puzzle master.
I got to ask you,
yes.
what were the thoughts on Saturday night? Did you think Arkansas had any chance going into that game?
Absolutely. When they started booing Calipari, you got to remember, kids don't go to a school for the school. They go there for the coach. I mean, you saw that with Reed Shepherd. God, he probably pissed off a lot of Kentucky fans. I was a little bit miffed. He had like top Arkansas, bottom Kentucky. I mean,
yeah, you know, you're right. No, you're 100% right. I would say that's 100%. Like, I mean, look, I mean, we got kids going to the number one kid in the country going to BYU.
Well, but it's $7 million. That ain't. That's a little bit different.
No, I agree, but it's a lot of it's not schools. You're right.
No.
We've even gotten away from that from football, to some extent. But no, you're 100% right. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was weird. It was almost like everything was. It was almost like the attention was on Cal for 2 or 3 days leading up to it. And it allowed Arkansas's team to kind of reset themselves. And they kind of went and played for him a little bit. I don't know. I mean, if Arkansas shoots 52% from beyond the arc again, they'll beat anybody in the league.
Here's the thing with Cal teams he has in year out. They're usually one of the most talented teams in the SEC, maybe even in the country. I mean, you have guys like Jonell Davis has struggled. Trevor Brazile has struggled. I mean, you know, Carter Knox is a freshman. I mean, DJ Wagner. I mean, he's only averaging 10.5 a game only. I mean, you look at these guys, and if one or two of them can get hot, they might be right behind. They might be up there at third for talent level in the SEC. Behind Arkansas probably might have the third best talent level in the SEC behind Auburn and Alabama on paper. Now, Sam thinks Calipari's not the best in-game coach.
I would agree with that. I mean, do you agree?
I would not disagree. I was there for the Oakland triumph in the flesh against Kentucky last year, and when you only have one guy over 6'8" at Oakland, and you had, I think, 6 guys over 6'9" at Kentucky, and you get out-rebounded, that's not good.
No, I mean, let's see what else we got here. I mean, any other movement in here that you think? I mean, all right, here's another good one. I'll tell you this. I was surprised Arkansas won, but I almost want to say I'm just as shocked how poorly Florida played in Knoxville. I mean, that's the worst offensive performance from a Gator basketball team since your Kruger was probably there.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. To lose 20 and to be, a top 10 program.
And then you only scored 40-something points.
Well, Walter Clayton only had, 10 points? I mean, if your best player only scored 10.
Will Richard had I think Richard and Martin combined at 8 points. They got
bad.
Something. And then think about it. Tennessee was out Ziegler and Milicic.
Yeah.
I mean, they're down to 7 scholarship guy. It was weird. When that line didn't move that much when that came out, I kept watching it because we were driving to Tuscaloosa, me and Chris, for the Alabama-Georgia game. And me and Chris were both like, that line is not moved still. And they've announced. And then the Igor Milicic news came out later. And I was like, dude, they're down to 7 guys. This is stealing money. And it just goes to show you how great Vegas is. Still, I mean, 20-point win, just a total beatdown.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting in their next game when they're playing at home against Vanderbilt. How are they going to recover and stuff like that? But this is the time where the kind of cream rises to the top. You know, we're in the beginning of February. We got about 5 to 6 weeks of conference play. Then we have the tournament. This is where you're going to see some movement in the next couple weeks. You know, this is where a lot of, like, I will tell you right now, we've reached out to a couple SIDs. Hey, you know, we're kind of in the, you know, we can't give you an interview right now, but wait till after the season. So this is where it's becoming a little bit serious. And I think Arkansas, I mean, I heard you say it. I mean, they can go on a little run, Arkansas. You know, what's LSU going to do? What's Vanderbilt going to do? What's Texas going to do? I mean, Kentucky's kind of beat up and battered. That could affect them long run if they don't get healthy sooner than later.
No, I 100% agree with you. It's one of those things. I don't. Yeah. I mean, thoughts here? I mentioned this just a minute ago. Transition to A&M. Thoughts? I feel like they're one of the slept-on teams in the league.
Yeah. I think they're the most underrated team, and it's like when you look at it, you thought it was the Wade Taylor show.
That's what I said. Yeah, the Wade Taylor.
Then we brought in some key pieces like Zurich Phillips. If you can win games without your kind of your star horse, your stud, and Zurich Phillips, a great basketball player, came in from SMU, but it's just, I mean, I've always been a fan of Buzz Williams. I think he's a really good dancer, and I love when he two-stepped in at West Virginia. I think it was he two-stepped on the WVU half center court.
What was that?
That was when they were with Marquette, I believe, and I was
going to say, was that Marquette or Virginia Tech?
That was no, he would have. I think that was Marquette because Bart Lundy was the assistant, and he had to literally get him off the floor because he's like, this guy's going to get shot. I mean, they were like booing him. It was pretty funny. Bart Lundy, who's a coach at Wisconsin Milwaukee now, but
hilarious.
I don't. It's kind of like when I look at your power rankings, that middle spot like that. You know, A&M, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, like Texas. I mean, you could throw Georgia in there. You could throw Arkansas in there. You could pull out Texas. You could pull out Georgia. I mean, it's really that middle is going to be really interesting because I'm a huge fan of Ole Miss, and they lost to Auburn at home. I mean, Auburn's just a different animal. I just. You're going to ask me who's going to win against Oklahoma and Auburn. I don't even know if we need to talk about it because, I mean, Auburn is just that good.
You got Oklahoma, Porter Moser and the boys going on the road, getting the dub, giving Auburn their first home loss. I hear you.
Hell no. Don't put words in my mouth, Chew.
No, you tell me if I'm wrong here, LT. It's one of those things. I feel like there's 9 teams. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. I think there's 9 teams in this league. Auburn, Alabama, Missouri, Florida, Tennessee, A&M, Ole Miss. I think State and Kentucky are in the tournament, in my opinion. Some may add Vanderbilt. I'm going to keep them out right now. I think Vanderbilt, Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, and if Arkansas beats Texas on Wednesday, you could throw them in there at that point. That's where I'm kind of at, like, how many of those teams make the NCAA tournament? Because they start playing each other here a little more soon. Everybody's got to start accumulating some losses here. And we all know if you can get to 8 wins, go 8-10 in league play, that's kind of the magic number to get a bid in the NCAA tournament. I don't see 13 teams, Luke, because it's kind of like at some point teams are going to start – someone's going to lose games.
Right. And I think it's you look at like some of these teams – like you look at some of these other conferences like the Big East. They had 3 teams last year. They're probably due to get 4 or 5. I mean, the Mountain West is not going to get 6. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, the ACC is down. I mean, I'm not high on the Big Ten. I just
how many do you think the Big Ten get?
I mean, Michigan State. I mean, Wisconsin is in the top 25. I mean, UCLA, you just never know. USC, you never know. Iowa, no. Indiana, I mean, who knows? I mean, I think they'll get 8 just because it's the Big Ten.
So you think they'll get 8?
But I think they deserve 6. See, I can't, like, I respect these bracketologists. I just can't get down with that. It's just really difficult. I mean, I'm amazed how much time and energy they put in it. I just watch the game and I'm like, yeah, they don't deserve to be in.
Yeah, it feels like Illinois keeps kind of getting the benefit of the doubt in that league a little bit.
Yeah, but Illinois then lost to USC at home and then got throttled by Maryland. Maryland's a team that could sneak in there too. That with
How
Kevin.
about your Nebraska Cornhuskers, Jawan Gary and the boys?
Yeah, I mean Fred. Yeah, I mean Hoiberg's a different level, man. He wins wherever he goes. He's just a winner. Maybe not in the NBA.
They win at Oregon last night.
Yeah. I'm just not high. I mean, listen, I'm in Big Ten country. I am just not high in the Big Ten. I would say the SEC is going to get the most teams in, and then the Big 12.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what I do know here, LT. Super Bowl 59, one game, two teams, endless possibilities. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you're predicting the first touchdown, who will take home the MVP trophy, or the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to place your bets and feel the thrill of every moment. With live betting all game long, you can jump into action, adjust your bets, and ride the wave of excitement from kickoff to the final whistle. Plus, to make the Super Bowl even sweeter, new customers can score $200 when you make your first bet. Just place a $5 bet, and if you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com/SECU and bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with the Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and older, present in D.C. First online, real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.com/chat in Connecticut or visit MD Gambling Helpline in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit Gambling Helpline MA or .org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. And if you're still with us, folks, after that long reading, it's time to get to a little prediction time with my LT. Again, we got opening lines. Let's make it a little bit like this. Yeah, we got opening lines. Hold on, let's get us both on here. There we go. Just gonna do like that. All right, we got opening lines for Tuesday night's matchup. So we're going to get right into it. Vanderbilt at Florida, SEC Network, 7 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Currently, Florida's a 12.5-point favorite heading into this one, LT. Who do you like?
Florida. I mean, Florida at home is just, were they 10-1 at home or something ridiculous?
Only off the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Florida had a really interesting performance against Tennessee. So did Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt got throttled by 30 against Oklahoma.
And they led at 13 at one point. We're up 4 at half and let Oklahoma go take a 60 spot on them in the second half.
That's a team that they're just like that. Oklahoma's like that little barking dog that will just never go away. Like they're just, Porter Moser's on the hot seat, but beginning the season, who knows now? I mean, I think they got to make the tournament and probably, maybe win a game or two. But I'm going to go with Florida on this one. I just think Vanderbilt's had a good run, but I think they're going to struggle in the next couple months or so. I hate to say that because I'm a big fan of Jason Edwards and what Coach Byington's doing, but I think Florida's just, built differently at home against maybe a weaker team like Vanderbilt.
No, LT, I agree with you. I think you hit hammer on the head. I think hammer meet nail with your comment from that perspective. From a standpoint of I could see Vanderbilt kind of hitting a skid here for a minute. Couldn't you? It wouldn't shock me if we're looking back, be like, what happened to Vanderbilt at halftime of Oklahoma? They played so well in the first half, had a lead on the road. Since then, it's been downhill. It's not a great start to go to a Florida team that's coming off probably their worst offensive performance in 30-something years, if not longer. I'm with you. I'm going to take Florida in this one. Number 14, Kentucky at Ole Miss. Let's get you a line on this. Ole Miss currently a 2.5-point favorite, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. You shocked the Rebs are 2.5-point home favorite here?
No, Ole Miss does well at home. I mean, I believe they're 10-2. They had a tough. They played a good game against Auburn. I mean, Auburn obviously won by 10, but they somewhat kept it in. The thing with Kentucky is that you just never. I mean, Kentucky has some depth. Obviously, they have some injury issues. I mean, Amar Williams stepped up their last game, so But I'm Ole Miss. I mean, I think Ole Miss is just kind of sneaky good.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Ole Miss too. It's like again, I'm with you. Kentucky, that's why some people are mad at me. I had them at 9th. And again, I think it's fair in my power rankings. You could make an argument. They should be ahead of Mississippi State, and I wouldn't argue with you. I could agree with that. I just don't really – it was the first time I saw a deer in headlights look from this team. And I don't think if they go lose at Ole Miss in the Pavilion, as you mentioned, a good home team. Chris Beard's going to defend their tail off. The solid fundamental team. I like Ole Miss. And just because they potentially lose to Ole Miss doesn't mean it's because they had deer in headlights. It's just they need to put Teresa back. Lamont Butler doesn't sound like he's coming back here in the next few weeks. They need him back. I just don't really like where they're at. And I say that, and I said that going into the Tennessee game last week, and they proved me wrong. So maybe they do again, but I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
Yeah. The only thing with Ole Miss that scares me a little bit, and I've talked to Coach Flanagan about it, one of their assistants, is I've watched a couple games with Ole Miss. Sometimes they start a little bit slow. And, when you play a team like Kentucky, and if Kentucky gets hot, I mean, they can shoot the ball.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think the defensive issues with Kentucky are what they are. So Ole Miss is going to have offensive opportunities. They got to have, as you mentioned before in the show, they got to have consistent guys like Matthew Morrell consistently, him and Brakefield. They played well the other day against Auburn. I think Sean Padula, Virginia Tech transfer, has been.
Oh, he's a ball player. Yeah, he's an absolute ball player.
I'm going to take Ole Miss, and then your favorite game of the night here.
Don't even. What's the line on this one?
Oklahoma at Auburn. Auburn, a 16.5-point favorite right now, 9 p.m. Eastern on the network.
Book it. Go to FanDuel.
Sooners big.
SECU, baby, and bet Auburn to take the house.
Sooners big. I'm hearing from you there, LT.
I just said go to FanDuel.com/SECU and bet Auburn.
There's your shameless plug from our guy LT. Right, he said it. Our proud title sponsor, FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet after taking Auburn minus 16.5. That is your Luke Taylor guaranteed blood bank bet of the night. No. Take the Auburn Tigers minus 16.5.
No guarantees. Now, Lance, my alter ego, Lance, who you sometimes call me, would pick the Sooners.
Lance Taylor from the next round, you're right. He would pick the Sooners. It's a lot of points. Who knows? I mean, I said it earlier. I think Oklahoma, Fears and Jalen Moore, they're getting more. I think early in conference play, the young guys were a little shocked. Like you just think back when they went to Tuscaloosa. It looked a little. I was talking about Kentucky, the lights being too big, deer in headlights. Kind of seemed like that. They're getting more comfortable as conference play goes on. 16.5's a lot in this league. Again, though, I would probably take Auburn heading up to it. Now, again, guys, moving into Wednesday night's action, we don't have any lines right now, but Missouri at Tennessee. I think this is a massive game in regards to finishing in the top 4 of the SEC, getting that double bye down in Nashville at the SEC tournament on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Well, what are you thinking here, LT?
I think I'm going to make a bold prediction, and I think Missouri is going to beat Tennessee at home, and Tennessee is really good at home. Every team in the SEC is really good at home. Except for South Carolina. Well, no, South Carolina's good at home too. They just, they've struggled.
South Carolina's not. I mean, they could have beaten State in overtime. Yep. Auburn if Nick Pringle doesn't miss 1-1. Who else? In Florida, and they were in it in the under 4 timeout against Saturday. But no, I mean, dude, are we still in each other's work here? I'm going Missouri too. We'll put our official midweek predictions out. Myself and Chris Phillips tomorrow from the SEC Unfiltered. All social media outlets. Go subscribe, hit that notification bell. But from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you'll see all the predictions. Spoiler, I'm going Missouri too. I just like the way they're playing right now. I think they have the higher ceiling than Tennessee right now. The offensive ceiling for Tennessee scares the crap out of me. And I know they beat Florida, but what they score? 64 points?
Yeah.
Massive offensive.
No. It was kind of like it wasn't a boring game, but it wasn't like I was hoping Tennessee would put up like 75-80.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last – hell, I can bring it up. Last time Tennessee scored in the 80s. Let's pull that up. Tennessee basketball, go to their schedule. Again, I was talking to a buddy about this today, and we actually something happened. We had a work call, so we couldn't pull it up. Last time Tennessee scored in the 80s was – CP, I mean, LT, was it in conference play, your guess?
I'm going to say yes.
Before Christmas on December 23rd against the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, Tennessee won 82-64. Since then, the highest scoring performance was They scored 70. They scored 78 against Kentucky in a loss.
There you go.
And again, I thought the other night was a culture win. Other day, it was like at noon. It was a culture win.
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely.
It was a culture win, and their defense travels. It is what it is. Zakai Ziegler being out, Igor Milicic being under the weather there. Again, the defense is going to travel. It's going to know what to do, especially at home. But, man, that offensive ceiling scares the crap out of me. Again, if I'm having to rely on Zakai Ziegler to be like my go-to scorer for the most part, or if Chaz Lanier's not doing anything, they're in trouble. I mean, I think you told me if I'm wrong. The ceiling for Tennessee will be set by what they get offensively from Igor Milicic.
Yeah. The thing is, though, if you've ever really followed Rick Barnes, I remember him at Providence. I remember him at Texas. He always had good defensive teams that could put up points.
Yeah.
I think
this is our boy Jay Pate saying right here, 86. What does Rick Barnes coach heavily? Defense. For whatever reason, he thinks I'm hating on the ball. There's always somebody going to beat Tennessee at home, blah, 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 especially Dave the Gump hating on Tennessee. I mean, I'm just predicting the game, brother. I just think Missouri's playing better basketball right now. They're deeper.
You know my love for Tennessee. Allen Houston, baby. That's all I got to say. Allen Houston.
He is right. Darlingston Dubar starting to play better for him, too. Again, he's not some massive offensive threat either. Again, they knew they weren't going to have Dalton Connect this year. I mean, they knew that. Hell, I don't even think they knew what they were getting with Dalton Connect last year. I don't think they knew he'd be that good. I think they thought he'd be good, but not that good. But there's just no guy that is like a true bucket getter when they need it this year for me. Again, it can be Zakai to ZZ certain games, but I don't know. Igor Milicic's going to have to be key there. He's going to have to be key for me. I'm with you. I'm going Missouri. Arkansas at Texas. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Who you go? I think this is a massive game.
Arkansas. I think it is too. I think this is if you had to pick one SEC game to watch, this might be it.
It's this or Tennessee, Missouri.
Absolutely. Or Kentucky Ole Miss will be good, but I think this Arkansas, Texas. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, okay? And it's a really weak limb because I'm a big dude. I think Arkansas is gonna start a little run here. I just have this weird sneaking suspicion.
You think they beat Alabama on Saturday?
Well, they're going to go on a run till maybe Thursday, but I don't know. I mean, you never know.
It turns it over 20-21 times on the road at a talented. You mentioned it; they're talented, not deep, but talented.
No,
they could be in trouble on the road Saturday night, especially as you're saying here, LT. The energy on Bud Walton on Saturday night will be rocking if they're coming off back-to-back wins against
absolutely
at Kentucky and at Texas.
And that's a rival. Texas is an old school rivalry game for them. Old WCW West Conference.
I'm with Texas though. I think Texas under the radar playing some of the best basketball. I'm not a big Rodney Terry guy, but I mean, even in their loss to Ole Miss last week, I was pretty impressed when you factor in on the road. You mentioned Ole Miss is a good road team, a good home team. They got the come from behind win against A&M. They beat Missouri in a must-win situation. They've been playing their better basketball. I don't really like what they run on offense. I think it's similar as Trey Johnson or Arthur Kaluma or Buzz.
Yeah.
I just think at home, I think they've been playing well. Nobody's really talking about them. Give me Texas. So that's the first one we disagreed on.
Now, let me ask you this.
You like Florida. I like Florida. You like Florida. I like Ole Miss.
Yeah.
We both like Auburn. We both like Missouri. I like Texas. You like Arkansas. Then finally, LSU at Georgia. 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday on the SEC Network. Who are you going with here? I think Georgia can't lose this game.
Yeah. Hey, remind me to go back to Rodney Terry 6. I want to ask you a question. But Georgia and LSU, it's Georgia. I think LSU is going to be last year's old Missouri team. They've won one conference game. I think LSU is just going to struggle. I mean, Jordan Sears is a great basketball player. I like what they're doing down there, but I just don't think they have enough to really compete. They might win another game or two, but I think they're going to be the kind of the last place SEC team. And I think Georgia at home, they got beat up pretty good. I think they're going to do something against LSU, and I just think LSU is going to struggle the rest of the season.
Yeah, I like Georgia at home. They got to get this win. I think they need some kind of – they need to go 2-0 this week. They have 2 home games against LSU, which, I mean, you can't lose this game. Nope. And then they get Mississippi State at home, which I think is a very winnable game at home. I think 2-0 would be big for Mike White. And then they need another big win. They hadn't had one since the Kentucky game. But I'll take Georgia in this one. So across the board before we roll back to Rodney Terry again, Me and LT are the same across the board outside
Yep.
of Texas. We both like Florida. We both like Ole Miss to get the win against Kentucky. We both like Auburn against Oklahoma. We both like Missouri going in and I guess this year just doing Missouri things, collecting some wins, getting a win at the Tommy Bowl, which again, some people aren't going to like that. Then we split here. LT likes Arkansas to keep this thing going. He thinks Saturday nights something we'll continue to see. Texas, I like Texas at home. I think they've been playing a little bit under the radar here. Then we both like Georgia getting a much. I mean, they can't lose this game, but we both like them getting a win at Stegman. What were you going to bring up about Rodney Terry?
No, I was reading somewhere, and I don't know how reputable is that. That some of the Texas fans are saying that Rodney Terry's on the hot seat. Have you heard that anywhere?
I mean, he misses the tournament. I think they may make a change.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, what are they, 15-7? Yeah, maybe. I mean, listen, the money that's involved with, NIL, pay to play.
15-7, 4-5. Yeah. They got to get 3 to 4 more conference wins and they'll make the tournament. They can.
You think so?
Let's pull up the schedule.
I was kind of
glancing. That's why me and you were talking about the Arkansas game this week. That's big for both teams.
Yes.
From a perspective of feeling pretty good about yourself. So they get Arkansas at home Wednesday, at Vandy Saturday, Bama at home on Tuesday, Kentucky at home that Saturday, at South Carolina, at Arkansas, host Georgia, at Mississippi State, and host Oklahoma to close out conference play. They need 3 or 4.
So those, if you talk about that schedule, bar from Alabama, all those games are pretty winnable for them. Georgia, South Carolina, Arkansas twice. So yeah. But I mean, does he have to make the tournament and win a game? Or does he just have to win a tournament? Like he just has to get in the tournament? Because that's like kind of the Porter Moser discussion, right? I mean, does he have to win? Does he have to make it's like Mike Woodson in Indiana. Does he have to make the tournament? And if he makes the tournament, does he have to win a game?
I think if he makes it, they give him another year, but I also think people are going to feel like they underachieved a little bit. It's like, let's just say they're in like a Dayton play-in game, fighting for a 10 or 11 seed, and they go get knocked out in that play-in game or something like that. Yeah. Or even if they're an 8-9 seed. I mean, in your opinion, do you think Texas is a dangerous 8-9 seed for a 1 seed in that second round matchup?
Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, they got to score, dude. That's why we were counting Bama's. I mean, we've seen Bama with Dylan Harper at Rutgers let him go off. We saw Josh Hubbard last Wednesday night go off. Bama's let individual guys, Malik Dia at Ole Miss, they've let guys kind of go off on them. And again, maybe you go the Jordan mindset like the Pistons used to go, hey, your best player, if you're Trey Johnson, you can score 40, whatever. If no one else goes off or gets in double figures, we're still going to win, but you can have your 40 points. I mean, but at some point, I mean, if Bama's not shooting well, they're turning the ball over 21 times. They've done it twice in conference play. So
yeah. Well, I think the thing is, like Sam and I were talking today, is the whole coaching thing. We've talked to a couple of coaches, off air, and you're going to see a lot of movement. I mean, Leonard Hamilton is retiring after the season at Florida State. We called that, a month or two ago.
What is he, about 76, 75?
Like mid 70s. And I mean, he's just, when you heard that news about a couple of players are potentially going after him because they didn't make he didn't make payments and stuff like that, you knew that was going to happen. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of back channel stuff going on in the next month or two to get feelers on who's available, who's not. And I think if they don't get, I think a lot of ADs are going to have better plans than in past, because there's just going to be a lot of openings. I mean, look at now. I think Sam and I counted. There's 8 openings technically right now, and it's just February 3rd, February 4th. I mean, and I mean big ones too. I mean, Florida State. USF will probably be open with their interim coach. Unfortunately, I love Ben Fletcher. Miami of Florida. You've got Virginia. I mean, those are. Then you have some other ones, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see what all is played in the back rooms to see who's available and who's not.
What jobs could come open in the SEC before we get out of here? That's a good question. I mean, let's think about it. I mean, I guess Rodney Terry could.
There's really only 2.
Matt McMahon at LSU.
What's that?
Is Matt McMahon at LSU?
How many, what is he, year 2 or year 3?
What'd you say?
Is he year 2 or year 3? I can't remember.
He's 3.
I mean, there's potential right there. I mean, before you get 4 to 5 years.
I don't know if they prioritize that sport, though, LT. I mean, hell, they're playing a women's basketball coach $1 million.
I think they should have never got rid of Will Wade. I mean, they had to, but I mean, everything he did is going on right now.
No, you're right. I mean, it was the 80 Joe Oliva, and like they remember, like they suspended him, brought him back. Yeah, I mean, Will Wade will be back in this league at some point. But you're right. Like there won't be a lot of. I mean, if Georgia fades late, do they? I don't think they make a move this year with Mike White.
No, I think Mike White's done a pretty good job. It all comes down to how you prioritize basketball. If you're a football school and you're spending 20, 30 million in NIL in football, and you're only spending 1 or 2 in basketball or 3 million, you can't get players.
That's where LSU is. Yeah.
And I mean, you just can't. I mean, and you look at like the teams like Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee. Like I'm just going to name those 3 teams because the coaches have been there a little bit. Maybe not. I mean, Nate Oates a little bit is newer, but they've got a cultural fit to it, right? They've built a program. I mean, who would have thought Tennessee loses Adu? They lose, a Dalton Connect. They lost a couple other key players.
Santiago Vescovi.
I mean, you can just keep going, and they bring in, a kid from University of North Florida. Year before, they bring in a kid from University of Northern Colorado. And it's just, I think Rick Barnes really knows how to identify talent. And I mean, Tennessee loves their basketball. Does LSU love their basketball? I don't know. I don't know.
Basketball is the 3rd sport, if not the 4th behind women's. I think about it. It's football, baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
Women's basketball right now,
yep.
And men's basketball. I think the only thing it could get Matt McMahon in trouble is if like Scott Woodward, the LSU AD, is looking over there, kind of like, how does Vanderbilt and Mark Byington in his first year come in here and like potentially make the NCAA tournament, the toughest league arguably ever, at least for the SEC, if not ever in general? Like, how does that kind of sit with LSU in year 3? It's like we're in year 3 and we're not even sniffing the tournament. Like, I don't know. But again, do they want to commit that much to basketball? I don't know. You're right. How much you're committed to it? Alabama started committing to it. Look at them. Auburn, you're committing to it. Tennessee's looking at it. Again, that's the thing about Tennessee fans sometimes. Like they get upset about Rick Barnes, but all Rick Barnes does is finish in the top 4 in the league every year.
I know. But then you look at like, South Carolina, Lamont Paris. I mean, there's really no talk of him. And he's a great coach. When you lose players like Michi Johnson, he had a nice run last year. He's a great coach.
Hurt all year, hasn't he?
What's that?
He's been hurt for Ohio State all year, hasn't he?
Yeah, he should have stayed. He went back to Ohio State. He should have stayed at South Carolina. That was a really good fit for him.
No, yeah, wild times with me. LT.
Yes, sir.
You joining us, man. We're gonna lock this in officially. Make it. You're gonna be joining every Monday if you're free, obviously.
I'll have to check my calendar. My Cali.
Yeah, check the calendar. Get the daughter golf matches there. But if you can squeeze us in, we'd love to have your SEC basketball midweek predictions, thoughts from the weekends. Again, join us anytime, guys. But no, guys, fired up to have Luke Taylor from the Full Court Network. Go give him and Sam a follow at LT and Sammy D1. They do a phenomenal job covering the sport. Love chopping it up with him every Monday night, it seems now. And we just lock that into a regular guest. But LT,
do you think they're ready for me in Nashville?
They're not for that whole week. I'll be there on Friday. I'll be there starting for that quarterfinal Friday. Remember, sad Wednesday. That it used to be 2 games. Now we got 4 that first Wednesday night.
Yeah, I might go on Monday. I might be there for the whole week. Because isn't there a game on Tuesdays too? No, Wednesday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
I want to get there for the I got to get there for like the meet. I like to get there and ask some really pertinent questions.
Yeah,
like
for those teams. So me and Chris will be there too.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it. We're gonna bring it to Vanderbilt.
Well, brother, I appreciate you joining us. Hopefully, we'll see you next Monday. But again, you're in.
Absolutely.
You're in.
Cool, man.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, everybody.
You.
Luke Taylor joining us from the Full Court Network does a phenomenal job. Him and Sammy across the board there, guys. Fired up about them joining us. Hopefully, he gets to join us for the remainder of every Monday night if he's free. So I appreciate his time, guys. I hope you had a fun episode. This is a basketball heavy, which I mean it should be. It's February 3rd right now. We're in the midst of one of the greatest college SEC basketball runs we've ever experienced. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, anywhere from 10 to 12 teams making the NCAA tournament. I think even 13 potentially Arkansas. Again, Luke feels like they turned over a leaf in Lexington. Let's see. Big game on Wednesday against Texas. But guys, Ryan Grubb to Bama. We covered it. I think it's the best edition Kalen DeBoer has had in Tuscaloosa so far. Good cop, bad cop mentality, like I saw Brock Heward mention. I think that's hammer, meat, nail with that comment. We get my SEC basketball power rankings. I put a video out on our YouTube channel. Again, the race to 20,000, folks. Let's go get us there by the end of this month. What else? We reviewed Saturday's action. Again, Cal rolling into Lexington, doing what he did. We previewed this midweek slate across the conference. Again, me and Luke agreed on every game. We both had Florida beating Vandy. We both had Ole Miss beating Kentucky. We both had Auburn beating Oklahoma. We both had Missouri going on the road and winning in Knoxville. I know Tennessee fans don't like that. I just like the way this Missouri team's playing right now. Just worried about Tennessee offensively. What do we have? We both had Georgia beating LSU. Then what was our other Wednesday night one? Oh, Arkansas, Texas. That was our only disagreement. I have Texas holding serve at home, and he has Arkansas getting the road win, guys. But for Dave Shoemate, guys, remember this Dave Knows Ball episode was brought to you by our new title sponsor, our buddies over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Our guy Luke gave you a bet. Go take Auburn minus 16.5 tomorrow, he says, at home against Oklahoma, guys. But for Dave Shoemate, hey, no episode Thursday. I'm a groomsman in a wedding, so I'll be in St. Simon's Island. If anybody's in St. Simon's, give your boy a holler. Again, we'll be reacting potentially on Saturday night. We'll see how that goes from a basketball standpoint. But if not Saturday night, it'll be Sunday morning. But I'll be there tomorrow night, Tuesday, Wednesday night, reacting to all 3 matchups on each day, all 6 midweek action. Remember, across the board, guys, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, guys. We would love to see all 500 of you listening right now go be subscribers. I know you all are. So that is my challenge for you tonight. Go be a good Samaritan. Do what you got to do, folks. But for Dave Shoemate, can't wait to see you next time.